Welcome to this deep dive into terraformers. It's a 2016 sci-fi action film that throws humanity into, well, a pretty desperate battle for survival against some seriously evolved cockroaches on Mars. You ready for this one?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, talk about a unique premise, right? What makes this film so fascinating is that it starts with something we can all relate to: overpopulation. Earth is having trouble, sustaining its growing population. Mars becomes this beacon of hope, a potential new home.
Exactly. And to try to make that happen, scientists launched this very ambitious terraforming project. They're trying to, well, modify Mars's environment to make it livable for humans.
Hmm.
It's a pretty crazy concept when you think about it. They send, well, moss and cockroaches to the red planet. They think that will kickstart the process. But then fast forward 500 years and things haven't really gone to plan.
No, not at all. Understatement of the century. The cockroaches, as we learn, have not just survived. They've thrived and evolved into these, well, humanoid creatures called terraformers. It's striking how the film explores what can happen when we mess with nature. It makes you think about how even the best intentions can have pretty bad outcomes.
For sure. So now it's the year 2597, and we meet our main characters. The interesting thing is they aren't your typical heroes. It's criminals like Comanche and Nano. They get this chance to clear their records by joining a mission to Mars.
Right.
The catch is they have to exterminate these super-evolved roaches.
It's a risky proposition, and it shows how desperate they are, and really humanity as a whole. But the mission is led by this mysterious Dr. Honda. The crew doesn't know everything about the dangers that they're going to face. What do you think about using criminals for this kind of mission? Does it raise any ethical questions?
Oh, for sure. It makes you wonder if they were just seen as expendable. But what really surprised me was learning about these special surgeries that they had before the mission. They weren't just to help them survive Mars. They were meant to give them, get this, superpowers based on insects.
And it's not just any powers. The filmmakers clearly put thought into matching the abilities to the insect. Like you have the bombardier beetle's defense mechanism, which becomes a flamethrower, and the paraponera ant's crazy strength that's just given to the human. I thought that was a really cool detail. Did any of the powers stand out to you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The idea that someone could get the ability to manipulate silk like a spider or enter stasis like the sleeping chironomid, it's fascinating and a little freaky. It makes for some incredible action when they finally run into the terraformers on Mars.
Yeah. That confrontation is where the movie really picks up. The crew thinks they're on this extermination mission, but they're totally unprepared for how smart and brutal the terraformers are. The fights are intense. It really highlights how hard it is to survive against overwhelming odds.
And it's not just the fighting, is it? There's this underlying tension with the crew. You have betrayals, hidden agendas, and the mental toll of being trapped on a hostile planet with creatures that could kill them at any second. Did that surprise you at all?
It definitely adds more to the story. These are criminals, many with tough pasts. Now they have to rely on each other to survive. That, plus the stress of the mission, leads to arguments and mistrust. But even with that, we see glimmers of their humanity. They're wrestling with their choices and trying to hold on to who they are when everything is going wrong.
And then, just when you think it can't get any worse, they discover that the mission isn't just about extermination. They need to get a second-generation terraformer egg for Dr. Honda. This reveal changes everything, adding conspiracy on top of this already crazy situation. What did you think of this twist? Did it make sense to you?
I think it does. I mean, on one level, it's this typical sci-fi thing, right? The hidden agenda, someone controlling everything. But what makes it interesting is how it connects to the film's themes of ambition and how far people will go to get what they want. Dr. Honda becomes like this symbol of power, out of control, willing to sacrifice people for knowledge and power.
Yeah, it really raises some tough questions about how far science should go.
Hmm.
Is there a point where it's just too risky?
Hmm.
Especially when you're messing with life on this huge scale, human and alien. It's both fascinating and kind of scary.
Definitely. And as the crew is dealing with this, they also have to face the reality of their situation. They're stuck on Mars. Their ship is messed up. Enemies everywhere. The film doesn't sugarcoat how brutal this fight for survival is. We see them lose people. They have to make hard choices. They're facing death.
That whole escape part where they're looking for parts from that old mission, BGS-1, to fix their ship, BGS-2, is just so tense. You really feel every decision, every loss. They're not just trying to get off Mars, they're trying to escape Honda's plan.
And it's in these moments that we see who these characters really are. Some give in to fear, while others step up and become heroes. That sacrifice that lets a few escape is so sad, but it shows how strong human connection can be even when things are horrible.
It is a bittersweet win, though. They get back to Earth, but they're changed. And not just physically. They know the truth about Honda's lies and the people who died because of him. What about the ending, with Honda disappearing, ready to sell his terraformer tech to someone else? What'd you think?
It's scary. It shows that even when the good guys win, the danger might not be over. What Honda did has effects that go way beyond just Mars. He represents something bigger, this willingness to use and manipulate others just for his own game, no matter what's right or wrong.
Right. It makes you uneasy knowing that all this tech, this power, is still out there. Makes you wonder, would we learn from our mistakes, or would we do the same things again?
That's the big question the film asks, isn't it? Are we good or bad? Can we create or do we just destroy? And there are no easy answers. It leaves us thinking about who we are and what we might do as people and as a species.
Terraformers doesn't hold back on the action or the ideas. It's a crazy ride. But what really sticks with you is, what does it mean to be human? What do we do when things are impossible? What will we sacrifice for progress, for survival?
Yeah, it makes us look past the giant bugs and the superpowers and think about the bigger picture. It reminds us that our actions matter and we need to think about what's right and wrong as we chase knowledge and power. And it reminds us that sometimes the scariest monsters aren't the ones with claws, but the ones who look like us and have bad intentions.
Yeah, it's a scary thought.
Yeah.
But even with all that, there are these moments of hope, like courage and sacrifice. It reminds you how strong people can be. What do you think was really strong in the film in terms of the characters?
I think it's how they show what's going on inside the characters. That makes them interesting. They aren't just, action figures. They're real people dealing with their pasts, their fears, and trying to figure out what's right. Even the ones who make bad choices are usually just trying to survive or protect someone.
Right. It makes the story more complex. It makes you think about how, even in these crazy situations, it's not always clear who's good and who's bad.
Exactly. And that goes for how the film looks at evolution. The terraformers are scary, but they also show how life can adapt. They were put in this harsh place and had to change to survive. It makes you think, what would happen to us in those conditions? Would we get stronger or would we fall apart?
It's an interesting question. The film doesn't shy away from the bad parts of humanity, but it also shows us being smart, caring, and putting others first.
And I think that's the main point. Terraformers might be a sci-fi film with giant bugs and superpowers, but it's really about us. It makes us look at our bad sides, our potential, and the decisions we make when we face something new.
So as we finish this deep dive into terraformers, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away?
I hope they leave with a sense of wonder, like be curious about the world and what's out there, but also a sense of responsibility. The film shows that what we do matters. We have to think about if what we're doing is right, especially when we're going after knowledge and power.
Well said. Even in sci-fi, there are things to learn about ourselves, our world, and the choices we make. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into terraformers. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep an eye out for those evolved cockroaches. Who knows what's coming next?